Come on, Chrissy. No, you can do it.
Looks like we're live, y'all.
I saw that too.
Oh, okay.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the OED Entrepreneurship in Tallahassee Roundtable. My name is Steve Bornhoff. I'm the executive editor at Rowland Publishing. I'm here by virtue of the fact that Brian Rowland, who's the commander of that operation, assigned me a significant task in association with one of Steve Evans's big ideas. And we know about Steve Evans that he's not given to little ideas. So it was our effort to arrive at a publication that would profile technology companies established in Tallahassee and talk about the potential for more. So I'm going to toss things briefly to Brian, who's going to talk maybe a little bit about the provenance of that publication. And let me say this to all. If at any point in the course of the proceedings you have comments or questions, feel free to share them. Thank you. Brian.
Good afternoon, everybody. You know, I am a very fortunate person that I have the opportunity, usually on a quarterly basis, to spend an hour with Steve just to kind of kick issues around and do a lot of what ifs. And about a year ago, he was sharing the story with me about the technology sector of Tallahassee, you know, and if you don't know, one of our titles is 850, the business magazine in Northwest Florida. So, you know, I'm leaning forward and listening to the story that he is sharing. And lo and behold, I mean, most of the information he was sharing, I had not heard about before. And, you know, my official reaction was shame on me because I'm supposed to know about all that good stuff that's going on, not only in Tallahassee, but going on in the 850 16 county area. So towards the end of the conversation, Steve said, you know, would you be at all interested or willing to kind of tell this story? And, you know, what we do is tell stories. You know, we have about 30 different magazines we produce, and, you know, we are storytellers. And, you know, being an entrepreneur, my initial reaction was, absolutely, we can do this. And so then over the course of the next 6 months, you know, it began to visualize. And we are just delighted to have delivered it here about a week ago. It came to our offices and to the OEV offices. And for you, get Tallahassee Magazine at home. It's polybagged with the full circulation of the May issue of Tallahassee Magazine. And we're going to polybag it with the full circulation of the summer issue of 850, so that we have the ability to tell our story to the region. And so with that, I want to turn it over to Mackenzie so she can give you a little bit of the methodology of our content and how we pull this all together. Mackenzie.
Thank you, Brian. So yes, for those of you, this is what the new magazine looks like. We were so thrilled, as Brian indicated, just to kind of hear the underground of what's been going on in Tallahassee, and what an opportunity for us to tell that story. You know, one of our filters and everything we do at Rowland Publishing is ensuring that it lives up to our purpose. And our purpose is to educate, inspire, and support the communities we serve. And we knew that when we heard the spirit of this publication, that 100% aligned with that mission. So for those of you that heard from Brian, you know, we do have our 850 business magazine, which really is putting the pulse of what's happening from an economic development standpoint of Northwest Florida. And one of the sectors we constantly cover with Steve's leadership as the executive editor is innovation and technology. And because there was such a huge story, you know, it deserved its own publication as kind of a spinoff. So for those of you, like Brian indicated, we'll be getting it in your mailboxes soon. One of the best things to kind of disseminate that information is making sure that the people who live and breathe in our community know exactly what's going on. Brian and I were both surprised hearing some of these stories. We hadn't heard them before, and that's what we do for a living. So we're really excited to be a part of this campaign, a part of this mission, a part of this storytelling. and know that it will continue to evolve. We're using 850businessmagazine.com as a vehicle to also share this as a digital perspective. And there's an innovation tab. So Steve will be constantly writing stories, not only just now to update annually, but throughout the year. So as you have more information, Steve's email is in our 850businessmagazine.com, as well as 850 Magazine. You can also reach out to Brian or myself, but we're just so thrilled to be a part of this. And Steve,
Yeah, thank you,
back
Kenzie.
to you.
One of the questions I frequently get as an editor is where stories come from. And in this particular case, the technology magazine, we believe we went about things the right way. We impaneled a meeting of stakeholders, and they were immensely helpful. Stakeholders from the economic development and technology sectors, immensely helpful in generating story ideas, and we were at it for a little bit before we arrived at something of a consensus on a story lineup. And I'll say that lineup was intended certainly to be representative, but not comprehensive. So anyone who has an idea for a story for 850 Magazine related to your fields of endeavor, never hesitate to bring it forward. And my thanks to all who have participated as sources for the technology magazine and for 850 Magazine in the past and going forward. Next up, I want to call upon our virtual panelists, and one day some wordsmith will invent a word for a virtual panelist, I'm sure. But we're going to start with Richard Fetchick. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do. Be fairly concise, Richard. No need to tell us about the high school play in which you starred. So
let me tell you, Steve, I'm an aspiring opening night / Shakespeare in the Park actor. You're right, didn't get on this time. I am the Business Intelligence Manager at Office of Economic Vitality, and it's great to be here with y'all today. You put together a really nice publication. I was just flipping through it. We do data, technical assistance, and a lot of special projects under my umbrella, and we'll probably talk about that more, but essentially we're the economic development organization for Tallahassee-Leon County, and we're excited to see the technology and commercialization growing here locally.
Thank you, Richard. Abby Queel with MagCorp. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization.
Sure. I'm Abby Quayle, the CEO of MagCorp. You may have heard of the Mag Lab. MagCorp is a spin-out of the Mag Lab to provide industry access to the world's leading experts and the world-class infrastructure that is housed at the Mag Lab. We were formed in 2018 with about 5 subject matter expert consultants that we contracted out of the Mag Lab, and now we've grown to about 30 subject matter experts, and we signed a partnership agreement with Florida State University back in December, which allows us to do even more for industry with larger projects that we can now contract directly into the university and the Magnet Lab. So we love showing off the Mag Lab and the university, as well as the other assets here in Tallahassee, and don't tell anyone at the Mag Lab, but we like it maybe just a little bit more when we get shown off as one of those assets as well, because we are not aware of anything like this in the country as far as universities and national labs are concerned. And so it's something we also hope to grow outside of Tallahassee, but we are very grateful for being featured in the inaugural edition of Tallahassee Innovation and Technology Magazine.
Thank you, Abby, and thank you for your help with the story that profiled MagCorp. Ramon, it looks like you've been able to join us. Is that fair to say?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
I can. So we invite you to tell us a little bit about yourself and the product you've developed and where you find yourself.
All right. So, hey, I'm reporting live from a power plant. I can't tell you which power plant it is. I can tell you it's with one of our flagship customers with Siemens Energy. And so we've developed passive RF sensors that we are demonstrating now on an engine right next to me. We're putting sensors on blade to help improve the reliability and the efficiency of gas turbines used in not only power generation, but also with aircraft engines as well. And so we are out of Tallahassee. We've also expanded into Daytona Beach. So I look forward to learning more about some of the initiatives that OEV is working on, and how we're fostering entrepreneurship in the place that I was raised in. And so I'm sorry, I am Ramon Soto, the CEO of Sensatech Propulsion Technology Incorporated. We license technology out of the university to commercialize into the market. We've come through the National Science Foundation SBIR ranks. And so we're right here in the field commercializing the technology where the rubber meets the road. So thank you all.
Wow.
Good. Okay, Ramon, let me say your staging for your appearance in this roundtable, absolutely exquisite. That backdrop couldn't be much better. Robert Blackledge with Domi, you're up.
Wonderful. My name is Robert Blackledge. I'm the executive director at Domi Station in Tallahassee, Florida. We're a co-working incubator where we believe in a diverse group of entrepreneurs from diverse industries. So we work to support them through programming, community development, and then mentorship and guidance to what they're doing to help them achieve the goals they're trying to reach within their business. I'm excited to be here. Innovation is a big part of what we do, and it's great to see these wonderful leaders sharing their insights and all that's going on in Tallahassee.
Thank you, Robert. We turned to Bill Lixon. I had an opportunity to interview Bill as he was about to join Domi as its executive director, but this is a fluid environment, Bill. What are you up to these days?
Thanks, Steve. Yes, I am the director at North Florida Innovation Labs at Innovation Park. And as you may know, it's unique in our area. We have a small lab currently. In fact, Eric, who's on the cover, is in the lab right now. And you may know that we're in the process of designing and then beginning construction the first part of the year in a $17 million facility, which will be a wet lab, dry lab, flex lab, and really unique in the area, and allow us to monetize the phenomenal intellectual property that's coming out of our research institutions here and across the Southeast. And look forward to hearing from all the great panelists today, and would invite the broader community to come out and see Innovation Park, and let's talk about this new lab.
Thank you, Bill. Eric Rabin, did you ever think that you would be a cover boy on a magazine?
That wasn't my thought process when I first started working here. No, but there you go. Never know where life's going to take you.
That's right.
So, so there you go. I'll help in any way that I can. So my name is Eric Raven. I'm the CEO for Corey Bio. We're a company that relocated a couple years ago from the state of Indiana down to Tallahassee. Our focus is primarily in studying the interaction of proteins with other proteins or small molecules or any kind of other thing using mass spectrometry as the basis. We are developing our own proprietary technology. We're also doing work with research groups at Florida A&M, as well as some biotech companies, commercial biotech companies in the U.S. and abroad, to help them with their own research projects as well. So it's very nice to be here and meet you all, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you all. We'll proceed with some questions, and these questions were arrived at jointly by me and the OEV. They're OEV certified questions, so you can take some comfort there, I suppose. Richard, we're going to start with you with a kind of a table setting question, and that is, please describe for us an entrepreneurial ecosystem, and what components comprise such a system, and are those pieces coming together in Tallahassee?
Thank you, Steve. That certainly sounds like a USDA grade A question. I appreciate it. Very fresh.
Right.
It's a big question too. I won't claim to have the sole perspective on it. Look forward to hearing from others. But I think from our angle, we view the entrepreneurial ecosystem as something that grows from within and can be attracted from without. So again, the latest magazine shows that. We have talent coming up through our very impressive substrate of universities with major research, attracting the top talent in terms of professors, thousands of STEM degrees coming out every year, sponsored research, and ultimately the commercialization of this technology, which in turn attracts businesses from without. Like we said, we're tired of being the best kept secret. It's time for other communities to know through MagCorp and beyond what we have on offer here. So the entrepreneurial ecosystem is this collection of intellectual talent and great workers, great teams, creative collisions, and then the money that can be fed in through university research or federal grants like the SBIR, STTR, and even assistance locally through our incubators. As Bill mentioned, we're ready to crack the bottle of champagne on the side of the NFIL incubator, which is going to be phenomenal. Wet space, dry lab. I'll let him, run through the ticker of all the amenities that's going to have. And I will say, so the coming together of all these people, talent, and resources is something Tallahassee does pretty well. We actually just submitted an EDA grant, which was very collaborative, and it was to make those connections between Innovation Park, OEV, TCC, FAMU, FSU even stronger, so that an entrepreneur who walks in the door at Bill's shop can get connected to anybody else wherein we know the lay of the land. So all those resources come together, and ultimately it grows more entrepreneurs from our own soil and attracts others here. So I'm excited for everyone else to kind of build upon that base.
Yeah, Richard, remind me to get with you so that we can do the appropriate story on the collaboration that led to that EDA grant. It seems to me that it might be certainly significant and perhaps precedent setting.
Yeah, I think it was really well done as far as all in the family. No objects were thrown to wit, and hopefully we'll see us get the award notification in the next 4 months.
All right, thank you. Ramon, we're going to turn to you. As you indicated moments ago, you're a product to a real extent, you and Sensitech, of the Tallahassee entrepreneurial ecosystem. We know that you're at the Embry-Riddle Research Park in Daytona Beach these days, but I think you harbor a desire to return to Tallahassee, and tell us what accounts for that desire.
Well, can you still hear me okay?
I can.
Okay. All right. So part of that desire, number one, I really appreciate the Tallahassee vibe, I guess, if you would. Like, I miss the food in Tallahassee. I miss the customer service in Tallahassee. I really miss the strive for excellence, I think. But also, I really like the talent, having access to Florida State and Florida A&M's universities' resources and the investments that the ecosystem is, putting into place. But also the wet lab space. It's really hard trying to find, facilities that, has all of the hookups that you need, the power requirements, access to fume hoods, the capabilities that you really need to expand and grow very quickly without having to, build an R&D facility, right? So, we're in the sensor business. We're not in the, in the R&D build out facility business. And so, Orlando has somewhat of that, but, the prices, it's really tough to, you can't pay, $1 billion market cap, company rates, right, for that kind of space when you're still an early stage company, hitting that next milestone in order to get to the growth stage that's going to allow you to command such valuations. And so that, and then also access to, the Dan Fosses of the world, access to the industrial, customer base, others throughout the panhandle that we also want to expand into. And so those are some of the things that, I'm thinking of in terms of how do you create, a world-class company that you can also attract, top talent? That's also a factor that goes into, now having to recruit in a 21st century economy where you're having to recruit employees where you're competing with, stay at home, type, work environments. And so Tallahassee is a great environment where I think, you can raise a family. Tallahassee can, really compete against the big cities, where you have to, stay in traffic for an hour and a half. And so a lot of these things are unique selling points that you can, add to your, arsenal when you're looking at, building that company that can also attract top talent. So a lot of these things are, it's not necessarily as a linear of a determination, but a lot of that, it goes into that decision-making process.
And Ramon, let me ask you, who in particular served you as a model or as an inspiration?
Wow. So, I'm surrounded by so much. I'm appreciative, like Eric. I've seen Eric, kind of grind from, years ago, with this, different ventures, and then Abby Quell when she was at Florida State, I had to navigate, with her, and then also a Bill Lixon, I've navigated with him on the marketing front, and so, I think I ran into Richard a few times when, you were, I think, first coming into the Tallahassee ecosystem. So it really takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes one to raise a business. But I will also say the person who I think had the biggest impact would be Keith Bowers at the Small Business Development Center. He has been, my, mentor, confidant, fashion designer. So I take a lot of my cues. I've learned a lot, from him, but also he was my formal boss. And so I'm still listening to him now, even as a client. So it's, I would say he's been probably the one who I continue to draw from, the most.
Gotcha. Yeah. Eric didn't know about himself that he'd be a cover boy, and Keith didn't know about himself that he'd be a citizen of style in Tallahassee magazine, but they both survived those experiences. We had a question from the field, and maybe start with you, Ramon, as to the kinds of skills and talents that you look for as an innovative entrepreneur as you go about launching a business.
Wow, that's, I think the number one thing is, those critical thinking skills, the growth mindset. Like, look, this is where I'm going to ask the world, the stars and the moon from you. We're doing so many things that's novel. I need folks on our team who can figure things out, who can troubleshoot things. And so that's the number one thing. Can you think outside of the box? Can you be innovative? Like now when, we're looking at talents, like one of our strongest hires, we recruited our CTO, who was actually recruited out of Siemens Energy. And so we are bringing in, for lack of better words, the big guns to our team. Like we want, the best piece of advice I got was from the chairman of Microsoft, John Thompson. He said, look, build your team that best represents where the company needs to go and not where it's been. And so I'm looking for folks on our team. I'm looking for, what is the next milestone that we need to hit, to hit the next stage in our business. And so in addition to looking at, who those heavy hitters are, who I'm trying to recruit to be a part of my team, I'm also looking for those soft skills, those things that you can't teach in the classroom. Like, can you figure it out? That's number one. Number two, can you run the race? Do you have the endurance? Like we were at a power plant, we've been here pretty much, all night, and we're going to be here for an entire week. And there's just so many things that, we have to navigate through and troubleshoot through. Nothing ever goes as planned. We're having to, invent new technology here on the fly that didn't happen as the way that we had tested and validated in our lab. And so, yeah, our guys that we have on our team, they have, PhDs in electrical engineering, PhDs in material science. But are you going to clock out at 5 o'clock and say, hey, I'll see you all in the morning, or are you going to roll your sleeves up and you're going to be here until the job is done? And so that's the kind of the culture that I kind of look for. And I really look for that stick-to-itiveness when I'm recruiting. We're pursuing a multi-billion-dollar market opportunity where things are growing and happening very fast, and we have to adapt and be very agile very quickly. And so I'm thinking, can you think outside the box? And number two, can you run the race? And number three, can you, do you actually have the skills and the mindset, the technical background that's going to help us with what's the next stage on our product roadmap? And so that's kind of those are the three main things I'm looking for when I'm looking to bring in import talent into our company.
Yes. Ramon, outstanding answer to that question. I saw a lot of nodding heads. People are agreeing with what you just had to say, certainly.
All right, thank you.
Abby, I turn to you, and we want to explore for a little bit MagCorp's interaction with FSU and the Mag Lab. Tell us about the impact on entrepreneurship you think that interaction will have, and looking forward, what are you most looking forward to where that interaction is concerned?
Well, thank you, Steve. Yes, our partnership agreement has been in place for a few months now, and that allows us to share the intellectual property that's created out of MagCorp funded projects. So there's also intellectual property that already exists at the university in the Mag Lab, and we can get a matchmaking fee for that. But there's also what we want to target is new technologies. And what we found in the past when we worked at the university is industry would balk at any terms where they didn't get any intellectual property. So, we found that folks like to split the pie in the business community, right? We split the MagCorp pie between the three founders. We find that academia likes to split the pie with large multi-institutional, multidisciplinary grants because those are more valuable pies, they're bigger pies. For some reason, that conversation did not come up in university industry partnerships. And so we are the catalyst will enable that, and that is one of the most enabling terms is sharing the intellectual property. So with that said, we've actually already been approached by an entrepreneur looking to spin out perhaps a technology or a specific field of use in a technology that maybe the large company that approached us is interested in, but it could be used for something else. So that's what we're looking forward to, is to just basically continuing to market opportunities that come out of the university. But being, I think, more valuable pies, because our intellectual property that is generated is market originated versus laboratory originated. So when I was at the university, I would find this laboratory generated technology that is, as a former engineer, is the most amazing thing I've seen, file a patent, but it's looking for a home. That doesn't mean it doesn't find a home, but it's just a little bit more difficult to find that, versus when a company comes to us and say, hey, we've got this product and we're having this problem, or we're ready to roll out product 2.0 that's magnetically enabled. Can you have someone help us with this? And it's ready to go, and you don't have to find a home. So that's what we're excited about, and we could even find more homes in different fields of use.
Yeah, it impresses me, Abby, that MagCorp is really taking the ice out of the river and permitting things to flow.
Yes, thank you, Steve. That's exactly what we're here for. And this is not unique. This is not unique to any of the institutions in Tallahassee. I would go to conferences when I was in technology transfer. This is something each university is trying to tackle, each national lab. You can do, your own research. Certain universities have different models, but this is the first that we're aware of where there is a separate private company that's spun out that can just focus on the customer service, like Ramon pointed out. We're fully dedicated to that customer service experience and navigating that.
And do you anticipate, Abby, that your model will be replicated elsewhere, or
I do. Maybe I'm a little biased now that I've been out of tech transfer for a few years, but we have been approached by a national laboratory when we presented this model and debuted it at the Magnetics conference back in January. So we have some folks already contacting us about it.
Outstanding. Okay. Next up, something of a general question about the necessary and important first steps for entrepreneurs in Tallahassee, and maybe Bill, given your various experiences as an entrepreneur, you could tackle that one first, and then we'll move on to some others.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And before I do that, I'd like to echo what Abby had to say. Their company is really unique in this space, and I had the opportunity to work with Abby and licensing and commercializing technology. And what they're doing to streamline the process is really unique, and I think is a model to unlock the intellectual property and the residual intellectual property created across our academic institutions. In advance of that, and this is sort of a Domi and Robert's area, what's common is everybody's got to start with the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, meaning if you don't have a corporation, you don't have a company, you have to figure out that part. If you've not validated your ideas in the marketplace, you've got to figure out that part. And so there are these foundational things that are common to every business that are ordinal in nature. And then it becomes nuanced within the market that you're serving, whether it is in the service sector or something that would be considered, traditional brick and mortar kinds of business, or if it is in high technology. One other thought to echo what Richard had to say. In terms of our ecosystem, I've never seen greater cooperation across all of the entrepreneurial partner organizations. And I believe, and many of us believe, that mutually beneficial collaboration has a multiplying effect. And we're seeing that in our ecosystem right now. So again, it begins with the ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, and then the sky's the limit. And Ramon, come on back. We've got a space for you out at Innovation Park.
Yeah, Robert, you want to build on what Bill had to say?
Absolutely. I think Bill touched on some of the foundational parts of what we do at Domi. Basically, we teach you what you don't know, you need to know about entrepreneurship and building a business, because a lot of times you start with an idea or an opportunity to solve a problem, and then you have to build on top of that and solve for problems as you go. I think with Domi, we focus on connecting you not only to educational resources, but a community of entrepreneurs and the guidance through mentorship. And that fundamentally breaks down to the relationships you develop, right? You look here at this panel of conversations, and already we've nodded towards the relationships we've built it with each other, developed. It's the same with entrepreneurships and getting started. The more that you can develop those relationships, build on those bonds, as well as problem solving with what you're trying to achieve, you'll be able to better accelerate what you're working on. You connect with the community you're trying to deliver a solution to, and really take what you're trying to achieve to the next level. And I think those relationships are at the heart of that.
Okay, we had a question from the field about opportunities for collegial types of mentorship in Tallahassee, and you can speak to that, I know.
Absolutely. So Domi Station has built and supported the Tallahassee Mentor Network. So it's a very vast network of individuals who are from all varying disciplines and backgrounds to support. We work with our partners, Innovation Park, TCC, the Jim Moran College, and others to really bring a wide berth of expertise and knowledge to support different ventures in our community, whether that be the individual who's starting a bakery or designing the next cryptocurrency. We have such a wide berth of innovation and creativity from manufacturing to the small business. So it really helps to have this large network that's services the entire community from different aspects to help facilitate those connections. As far as gaining access to that, you can work with any of the partners here. They'll help connect you to those resources and identify which is the best fit for what you're trying to do and where you're trying to go with your organization.
Thank you, Robert. And Eric, let me ask you, what were some of your first steps as an emerging entrepreneur launching a business?
Holy cow. Honestly, it was just trying to get over the response I just gave you was, holy cow, where do I even start? And
Right.
there are just so many different things that come at you now. When I first started, I was up in Indiana and worked with a local university there, and was able to make some connections there that continue through to this day. But I can say that there were really two aspects of it. And I know that Ramon can probably relate to this as well with the type of research he does. Is you've got the technical piece, which can be enormously challenging and consuming. As how do we solve this technical or engineering or scientific problem? And many of us, that's the mindset. That's the way we're wired. That's the way we want to go at this. And we think that if we can solve that problem, the world's just going to come and be begging us. We'll be on Oprah. We'll be famous and rich, and everything else is going to fall together. And which leads to the second part is that as you're figuring out the technology, how do you actually make sure there is a path so that once this is developed, you can get this to market, you can get this into the hands of the right people. And it's a rare person, I think, that can really have both of those aspects balanced in their mind effectively. And so one thing that I really appreciated about Tallahassee is that early on, I was able to connect with some mentors down here that helped me to better understand that second part, which is how do you get this out? How do you get this in front of customers? How do you my first product was targeted towards a very specific type of researcher in small and large pharmaceutical and biotech companies. To try and reach that person was an enormous challenge. And I was thrilled to find that there were some resources in Tallahassee to help me figure that out, to where we're able to get our technology in the hands of companies as large as Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson, the small virtual companies, across all continents, and to really to really have a chance to vet the technology, to get the feedback from them, to continue to build on that, and to start to develop the market. So it really, so first starting out, I mean, it's almost, you almost don't even know how much you don't know when you're first trying to start something out, and to be able to plug in and to find the advisors who can just hold your hand and take you to, show you what the path is and get you to where you're trying to go was just invaluable. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, very well. Thank you. Richard, back to you. Describe for us some of the databases that you have built and maintained, and how they relate to efforts to attract business.
Gosh, well, sitting here listening to the stories, those are the best part, right? You can always analyze numbers, but Eric's and Ramon's story are amazing. I think I might even think outside the box, endurance and tech background on the wall as like our three things that we just point to whenever people come in. That said, my colleague Dan Lucas and I work to curate a pretty large data library for use, and hopefully our partners turn to it as well. As far as entrepreneurship and innovation goes, we like to collect non-employer statistics, which is a reflection of how many solopreneurs you have out there, people who aren't employing others. And in Leon County, there are over 22,000. They brought in almost $1 billion last year. And they're in real estate, they're in professional, scientific, technical, they're in information. It spans the whole, dipping platter of types, which is exciting because in Tallahassee, tech is big, whether it's software or the mass spectrometry that Eric's doing. But there's also a giant SOP company, and that's pretty special too. Thank you, Divvy Up. I'll never forget that 850 magazine cover where Mitch and the company are sitting in Domi, I think it is. So there's non-employer statistics. Then there's SBIR, STTR grants. Mike Tentnowski at NFIL taught a great course on that. And that tends to fluctuate between 200,000 to $1 million per year. There's also patents. We'll have between 20 and 71 patents every year, most of them, or the majority being in molecular biology and chemistry. And finally, R&D expenditures. So like Abby and company have mentioned, $274.1 million in federally financed R&D at FAMU and FSU last year. And so hundreds of millions. And, it spreads around. Can we get it to the commercializable side? It's a big aspect. And then I'll just finally note, how about our incubators? They're the ones actually on the ground helping folks through the mentor network. And so last year we had over 100 companies, which is huge for a community the size of Tallahassee, that came through Domi and others. And the latest economic impact analysis showed that member companies at Domi alone had generated $109.5 million in economic output. So there's a lot of numbers out there, and it's leading to jobs and also to really great stories.
Yeah. Let me have you, Richard, think about Tallahassee itself as an entrepreneur. And let me ask you, where does Tallahassee find itself? Is it an early stage entrepreneur? Is it mature? Probably not. Somewhere in the middle? What's your assessment that way?
Gosh, well, I don't want my impression to be final. We need to hear from everybody else on this one. But I guess for my sake, I toured Domi in 2014 and was starstruck. Started a company, failed about a year later, and it was great. Most fun I've ever had. And recently on an Economic Development Council call, it sure sounded like we had as many resources as a lot of the other communities out there. Now, that said, do we have the perfect fit every time, when it's needed? No. And we're competing with Memphis and with Tulsa and with Daytona. And we see our luminaries go that way. But I can tell you that we're definitely not at the starting line. And I don't know if there ever is a finish line. So we're committed to building the right resource for the right person at the right time, that just-in-time delivery for entrepreneurship support, until something happens that, no one could anticipate. But for now, I'd say we're pretty darn far along, and we're going to keep trying to work to retain our talent and generate that buzz nationally that's getting people like Eric down here.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else with an assessment that way? Brian Rowland?
850 Magazine, which is finishing its 10th, 11th year right now, we've had the very unique opportunity to travel and have desk side chats with hundreds of entrepreneurs between Tallahassee and Pensacola, the coast all the way up to the state line. And we have three large landholders in our region: the state of Florida, the federal government, and St. Joe. And two of those landholders will never sell any land. And that is in the business of what St. Joe is doing, is developing Northwest Florida. They have a 100-year plan. Their closing comment to the Board of City Commissioners in Panama City, probably 8 to 10 years ago, when they were getting the municipality of West Bay approved. And that municipality is anchored by this new international airport that is going to be able to handle the 747s that land. It's the only airport in Northwest Florida that can handle the 747s. And what the gentleman told the city commissioners, was that when we're done finishing the city of West Bay in 50, 60 years, that it will rival any city in the state of Florida that you know today. That's a pretty big comment and a pretty big statement. It's a company that develops with a lot of thought and a lot of strategy, and it creates a canvas and an opportunity for entrepreneurs all the way from this higher level of technology and innovation down to that bakery, down to that air conditioning company. I mean, they're building neighborhoods, they're building small communities, they're donating land for church and hospitals. And I just think that we have the opportunity, Northwest Florida, if we think regionally and we act regionally and we talk regionally, that we have an opportunity to be a destination for biotech companies, for technology companies, because the quality of life that we have in Northwest Florida is fabulous. Once you go south of Gainesville, it's crazy down there. I mean, it's gridlock. And there's no master plan, because there was never any master planning done when south of Gainesville was developed over the past 30 to 40 years. But fortunately, with a company, with a vision, with a plan, this region is going to really grow very well. You know, $2 billion is coming in for the rebuilding of Tyndall. You know, there's just so much opportunity. And I think, and I really am urging all of the regional stakeholders, and we've got so many of them here on this call right now, and across the region, to start communicating a little bit more. That is the biggest challenge that I have noticed, is that we all tend to work in our silos, and we all are successful for different reasons. Tallahassee, universities, state, etc., Fort Walton, Pensacola, Panama City, all successful for different regions. And I think if we have a little more communication, a little more collaboration, I think our growth and our goals will be attained a little bit quicker. And that's just going to take people getting in their car next February and coming to an economic symposium over in Bay County that 850 is co-sponsoring, and meeting some of these people over here. When Mackenzie and I go to the Gulf Power Symposium, I can count on one hand the amount of people that I see from Leon County. That's significant. And I really am urging Leon County to reach out, and I'm really urging that area to reach over here. We want to bring that symposium in 23 over to Tallahassee and start that dialogue of talking to each other. That is where I think we're going to see enhanced success.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Anybody else want to weigh in on the importance of a regional identity or regional cooperation? Okay, if not, Eric, I'm going to return us to Tallahassee specifically, and I'm going to ask you to imagine that you're in charge of the Tallahassee Entrepreneur Welcome Wagon, and it's your job to kind of orient new entrepreneurs come to town. And what advice would you have for them? How do they go about maximizing their relationship with the city of Tallahassee, and what 5 people do they really need to make the acquaintance of?
Okay. All right. Well, I just think about what I did when I was coming down. Although the city's changed quite a bit since then, there's a lot more in place than there was even 5 years ago. If it's a new entrepreneur who is starting with an idea, first place I would send them to would be Domi Station, where they have a place set up. They can meet others who are in the same space. They can sit next to them as they're working through. They've got the infrastructure there for everything from how to set up your business, what to do from a tax perspective, how to start writing a business plan, and really plug in there, because Domi Station is great, not only as a landing spot, but the tentacles kind of go out in all different directions. And so if they were looking at a restaurant, or if they wanted to go into the technical side, the resources are there so that they can eventually make their way over to the folks who can really give them specific guidance in those areas. So Domi Station is fantastic. I can say personally that that Steve Evans has been a source of enormous support for me on many different levels, having someone with his background to be able to provide guidance for how to actually break into some of the large biotech and just large industrial types of companies. Then for those who are coming out of a more science-oriented background, the North Florida Innovation Labs, which is where I'm located now, I was the flagship tenant for their facilities here, has been fantastic. I had the opportunity to, when I was moving from Indiana, it was an open canvas for me, and I was able to consider, they've got a lot of activity over in Gainesville and the Alachua areas, up in Indiana and other states, but really was happy with what they were able to pull together down here with the newly renovated facility. And I've been able to hit the ground running in the laboratory here. So yeah, I think that there's a strong infrastructure here that really does work together quite well that can orient a new entrepreneur to not only get started, but to really help them find their community.
Thank you, Eric. Mighty fine. Robert and Bill, I wanted to return to the two of you to ask to what extent Domi and the innovation labs will overlap. Where does one leave off and the other take over? If that's a fair question.
Yeah, I'll jump in and start. To follow up on Eric's comments, there's another organization that is called ARROW, Alliance of Entrepreneurial Resource Organizations. So that's also an excellent place and has a listing of all of the resources for entrepreneurs, including Keith Bauer's SBDC, all of our chambers, INI, which supports nonprofits. So that's also a phenomenal place to start. In terms of the differentiation between Domi and North Florida Innovation Labs, I think that Domi is a great place to start when you're getting started. And then when you have a need for specialized, whether it's wet labs, dry labs, fabrication space, and office spaces, then North Florida Innovation Labs is a great place to graduate from Domi. Or if you have a head start, meaning that you already have a company, you've gone through licensure with one of the research institutions, then you can move right to North Florida Innovation Labs. And so I'm a member of Domi's board of directors, and so as such, I wear a couple of different hats, and we're looking to create collaborative programs directly with Domi, directly with TCC's Innovation Center. We work with Jim Moran College of Entrepreneurship, and we work directly with Florida A&M. So as I mentioned before, I've never seen a greater spirit of collaboration. And to answer a previous question, I would term our ecosystem as an awkward adolescent. Meaning that we're growing fast, and we're on our way to adulthood, and with the comments that Brian made, Richard made, and others made, we are picking up the pace quickly. This new lab at Innovation Park 2023, I think we'll be well on our way to adulthood as an ecosystem.
Right. Okay. Better an awkward adolescence than a newborn giraffe, I suppose.
Probably so.
Yeah. Kenzie.
I just had a comment. Yes, Bill, based on your conversation, about creating the collaborations of community, that was something from my perspective when we heard, what the plan was for this magazine. We were going out and sharing basically a bag of air. We didn't have anything to show what we were going to be publishing. And when we were talking about the stories that Steve Evans had shared with us and that Steve Bornhoff was writing, a lot of the consistent comments I was getting from these innovation leaders and these entrepreneurs in technology is that they wanted that community. So the startups was one conversation, but those that were evolved in that business, how can they communicate and meet some of these other businesses that are in the same field? So I just put that out there because I think it is a great opportunity to develop something like that if it's not already in the works. And, Brian and I had talked about even having, maybe there's an innovation technology summit that Tallahassee ends up being the home of, that ends up being this national summit around the world, that we could host. But I mean, that's kind of the big thought of it, but just that community that people want to have, because the solutions that other businesses can provide with each other, I think is very strong.
I think Robert, that's a good segue to Robert and Global Entrepreneurship Week and Startup Week, and Robert's chairing what will be a much bigger initiative this fall.
Yeah, to give some insight, Startup Week is a week-long event where we have different tracks. So a couple events on marketing, sales, manufacturing, government technologies that allow us to create collaborative, connective, organic growth of our ecosystem by putting these events in a geo-located place like a downtown, then allowing these events from different aspects where you could have an event on government, you could have an event on manufacturing, and you could have an event on starting a business, all happening simultaneously or really run right after each other. And so you have this cross pollination within our own ecosystem. At the same time, we really get to highlight all that's going on, all the collaborative nature and all the resources, not only here, but that we have connected in our broader networks around the country. So it's a phenomenal opportunity to really highlight that collaborative environment that we've been creating and working so hard to produce here in Tallahassee, as well as to put a lighthouse down that says, if you're looking to start or you need help and resources, this is a great place that you can go and find those.
Okay, I should add that we received a comment from a tech company new to the market, Pollution Glue, and they're looking for partners as they go about the business of exporting their technology worldwide. So a little plug for them. I wanted to go around the virtual room, I guess, at this point, and ask people just generally what their outlook is on Tallahassee's future as a technology center and as a magnet for technology companies. And feel free, in addition, to add any summary or closing thoughts you might have. And I'll start in that regard with Abby.
Oh, sure. I think the outlook is very bright, and just to tack on to the comments I've heard today about collaboration and what MagCorp can provide for the entrepreneurial ecosystem. I'd like to give a shout out to our cover boy Eric Graben. We actually with him to help one of our startup clients that's developing a medical device. So we've already sort of done that, collaboration, collision, and I look forward to continuing that. Tallahassee's done a great job of breaking down barriers and silos for us so that we can have these types of partnerships. And we're happy to continue toward the path to adulthood and success.
Right. Okay, Ramon, from your perspective, what's your assessment about Tallahassee and its technological future?
Well, so I think I had this conversation with my wife not too long ago. Just looking at the investments that Tallahassee is making, I was like, wow, could we possibly see ourselves living in Tallahassee again? And so, hey, it's possible. And I'm inclined. Look, as a CEO, I have a fiduciary responsibility, to do what's in the best interest of the shareholders. And so I have to now give Tallahassee another look, a much deeper look. And so I'll be getting with you, Bill, on, looking at exploring the wet lab space. I see Eric Graben has, some cryogenic temperature needs. He's off. I would make a plug to say, hey, I can help you with that advanced temperature control in that harsh environment. And so the outlook for Tallahassee, I really wish this was here when we were first starting up. We were really, shooting in the dark here. But look, leadership is the ability to achieve purpose through uncertainty, and innovation, entrepreneurship, it kind of gives you that pathway to do that. So those are my parting thoughts. I look forward to catching up with everyone here soon.
Thank you, Ramon. Eric, maybe your assessment, parting thoughts.
I think he's had to leave, Steve.
Okay, all right. Bill Lixon, your assessment generally about Tallahassee and its technological future.
I think it's good and getting better. And not only from the perspective of the facility out here, which will be unique in our region, I also think that where Tallahassee and the great Northwest area is well positioned to leverage some of the funding that's coming down federally. not only through commercialization grants like SBIR, Brian mentioned rebuilding Tyndall. My understanding is that's where a lot of the new energy research will be. So it's really an opportunity to knit things together in a unique way and at a unique time from not only where we are as an ecosystem, but where the country is in terms of where it's investing in resources.
Okay, and Robert, your assessment generally.
I think we have a phenomenal opportunity to work collaboratively to bring additional resources, and even more than what we've been able to do. I think the country as a whole is ready to come back and really take the bull by the horns and bring a lot to what we're doing and the impact we're making around our own communities. I think for us, Domi focuses on that foundation to have something to build on top of as you're growing and scaling your business. And we're laying the concrete while Innovation Park, Jim Moran, and others in the community are growing and building the walls as we grow these businesses here locally. And it's been phenomenal getting to know each and every one of the people on this panel and many, many more, learning about what we're trying to do here in the community and working collaboratively to identify where those resources are. So it's no longer a question of who do I go to, it's more of a resource of how many people do I need to talk to get where I'm going.
And Richard, your summary thoughts or parting shots?
Sure. Yeah, I echo Bill, Robert, and everyone on the call. We're good and getting phenomenal. As you can see, Quarry Bio, Sensitech, MagCore. Tech is a diverse word, and we're seeing all of it here. So you have anyone you may need. So come see us. We're a fast-growing adolescent. Good and getting phenomenal.
All right. All right, Kenzie, parting shots or thoughts?
Yeah, I would just say, even with the launch of this magazine, it created an extra energy of excitement for me. And I think one of the uniquities of Tallahassee is just the fiber of the people. Our people is really the differentiator of everything in the country. And with the assets that we have, as Brian indicated, throughout the region, I think our opportunities are limitless. So I'm just excited to be a part of the journey and hopefully help tell more stories.
Exactly. Okay. And Mr. Rowland?
Well, I think picking up on Mackenzie's last comment is continuing to tell more stories and the story. We'll be here. We're going to continue to keep our eye on innovation and technology for next year's edition in Tallahassee, and we plan on expanding it over across the region because that is really one of our major economic foundation pilings, and we just continue to need to tell the story. So, I want to thank everybody for taking their time today and the people that I can't see that are listening in. And most of all, I want to thank those businesses who, made the decision to invest in that little bag of air that we've been presenting over the past 12 months. None of them really needed to advertise, but they did it because they believed in us telling the story. And so without them, we wouldn't be able to do it. And so, again, thank you, and we look forward to the next edition in a year.
Yeah, and in closing, let me say to all that working as I did on the first edition of Innovation and Technology magazine was a real learning experience for me, a very illuminating one, and we trust that the magazine will be a learning, illuminating experience for those people who have the opportunity to see it and read it. So thanks, everyone. I've greatly enjoyed the conversation, and have a great rest of the week.
Thanks, Steve.